What is going on out there, everybody? Episode 14 of the All Around Sports Podcast with your host, Jim McAllister. What can I say? It's been a while, no particular reason other than the fact that, as much as I love doing this show and as much as I love doing this as much as I possibly can, like I've said a million times before, and I'll say it a million times after, I'm a husband, I'm a father. So those priorities obviously come before the podcast, which I think everybody out there knows that, hey, this is what we do. And I always preach that to my children. You take care of your family, and then anything else you want to do after that, if you have time for it, you do it. So here we are. We're able to do it, so we're doing it. Episode number 14. Now, that number is significant for a lot of reasons, and we'll get back to that later on. But let's just get to what we're here for, right? What we want to talk about. Because there's a lot to talk about. So let's get into it now. The first things first, as you can see, I'm dressed like I'm about to play a game, but obviously I'm not. But the Mets are, and it's October. And nobody saw that coming, especially me after what's going on. So let's do the timeline, right? So there's going to be a lot of things I need to get off my chest in this podcast. And there's going to be a lot of things that I might go off on a tangent about. So I apologize right off the gate. But here's the first tangent. How Major League Baseball screwed this whole thing up with the Mets and the Braves is a disaster. And shame on them for doing what they did to both teams. And listen, you guys know I'm a Mets fan. It's written all over here. But let's be fair. The Braves got screwed. They did. They got screwed. They got screwed like you couldn't believe. We all knew there was a hurricane coming 3 or 4 days before the hurricane came, right? So obviously, if I know that, and we all know that as a group, how does Major League Baseball not know this? How do they not react to the inclement upcoming weather and then take something like a baseball game, okay, that they know that needs to be played? You have a mutual off day on Monday, okay? You have Tuesday that looks good. You can't play 3 games in 2 days and then have both teams have 2 days off to recuperate and then go into a series that they know that where they stand and what they need to do in order to make the postseason, and then have a day off on top of that to get them prepared for the postseason? Oh, no, we're not doing that. No, why would we ever do something logical? No, we're not doing that at all. No, we're going to make both teams play on Monday for no particular reason. Wait until 5 o'clock on Wednesday to decide this is what we're doing. Disaster, disgrace, any negative connotation you want to use for that, that's what it deserves. That's a disaster. That is so terrible and so just like, thumb your nose kind of, like logic towards like us as fans. It's so just unacceptable. It's unacceptable that this happened. How? How does this happen? But anyway, whatever. So now we get to this, right? Mets lose a tough game on Tuesday. We go to now Milwaukee to figure out what we need to do and that whole thing of combination of 4 wins, losses, what have you, right? Go to Milwaukee. They lose 2 and look terrible doing it. They look bad. They look really, really bad. Sunday, Peterson gives them a huge lift. They win the game. Now we go into Monday. A game that should have never been played, in my opinion, should have been played, on, the days it should have been. But here we are. That was, in my lifetime, I'm going to say, the greatest Mets game I've ever listened to, heard, seen. It's for what was on the line and how it happened and the roller coaster that it took you on, unbelievable. Unbelievable. You still don't even have words for it. For them looking lifeless for 8 innings and all of a sudden scoring 6 runs, to have Diaz come in, you think it's over, or you think that, hey, we got our best pitcher on the mound, and then he he forgets to cover first base, and then he gives up 4 runs, and then they come back. Lindor, who's obviously this side of Shohei Ohtani, the MVP of the National League, hits a big home run to put them ahead. Diaz goes to Mendoza. I'm going back in. All the wonderful things that you see. And for them to do what they did in Atlanta is a huge deal. Huge deal. So we get through that. Now we get to Tuesday. Now, in my head, I'm thinking Tuesday's a throwaway game because of all the emotion that happened the day before, right? They lose the game, okay, fine. You reorganize your pitching, you're okay. They win. Not only do they win, they look great doing it, okay? They look like they were the better team. Severino pitches well, which we all know in the postseason. Severino's not exactly the greatest postseason pitcher. 6 innings, 2 runs, take that all day. Jose Butto, 2 innings. Stanek shuts the door. Awesome. Now we got 1 game ahead. Now we're going into Wednesday. I'm going to be honest. I was not very confident about Wednesday. I don't know. You can't, maybe it's just the scars on my body from being a Met fan. Is it just, maybe I'm just, that I don't know. You kind of feel that sometimes that you just don't think today's your day. Well, turns out that yesterday wasn't their day. But they had opportunities. So it's not a matter of opportunities. And I'm going to be honest. I'm putting this one on the manager. Now, the manager has done a great job. An amazing job. You can tell that they fight for him. And that's a big deal, right? They really go to bat for him, which is, again, amazing. You can't put Phil Maton in that spot in the 8th inning. You can't. You know what? Listen, I understand you want to try to go 1 inning at a time. You got Reed Garrett through an inning, which I was shocked that you did. Stanek looked great again. I understand Butto threw 2 innings, but you know what? If he was available, he had to pitch. Or you go to TS for 2 innings, which, if you're trying to shut the door, that might have been the play. Go to Diaz for 2, especially where the lineup was at that particular point in time. Churrio's already hit a home run. And listen, Jackson Churrio's amazing. Kid's 20 years old, playing in big-time moments, hitting big home runs. That is huge for that team moving forward. There's 2 guys on that team I'm scared to death of. He's one of them, and Bryce Terang's the other one. Because the one thing the Mets can't deal with is speed. Now, they got lucky yesterday. They threw out a runner, and they were able to kind of control the running game somewhat, but that's going to rear its ugly head at some point. You got to keep Terang off the bases. You have to. It is a must, okay? If you're going to go into today, which we'll talk about, that's a key. So, all right, you bring Maton in. He gives up the home run to Chourio. Now, I get it, the 3-batter rule. You got to get him through 3 batters. But as soon as that 3rd batter hits, he's got to get out of the game. You can't let him face the other guy. You can't. You can't do it. You can't do it. That was a bad job on his part. Sorry, it was a bad job. Now, you have Diaz rested now for 2 days. You have Butto. You have horses kind of lined up for this. So now you're going into a position of strength. The thing that scares me about today is Quintana. Scares me. I get he's pitched in big games. I don't really think he's the guy right now that I would go to, but I guess right now you really don't have a choice. It's either him or, Peterson on short rest. So, okay. I guess we're going with Quintana. So, listen, hope for the best. I'm hoping against hope that we get through today, because if we get through today, it gets real fun around here. But let's worry about today. I don't want to look ahead. I don't want to think about any of that stuff. So, let's go there. Okay? So that's on the table. The second thing we need to talk about, the Giants. I'm going to wrap it up in one word. Or actually 2 words. They stink. And it's not fair because they stink because of the quarterback. It's not because of the defense. It's not. And Neighbors, jeez. Imagine if Neighbors had a real quarterback to throw the ball. Think about that for a second. Anybody but the quarterback we have now, which I'm not putting it on his feet, all of it, but he's not all the way back from his ACL, guys. You can see it. You saw it in the design runs. He doesn't have the same burst that he used to, and he can't put his legs underneath the deep ball. That's a problem. So give me a healthy Tommy DeVito. Give me a healthy Drew Lock. 80% of Daniel Jones is not going to win you games. And I'm scared. They're going to Seattle off a loss in Detroit? Okay. Listen, I'll be rooting for them, but I don't think they stand a chance. I'm being honest. I just don't think they stand a chance. And they need to kind of figure out who the next guy is. And I'm not sure that guy is on the roster. And Okay, now you still want to win games, but you also want to put yourself in a position to try and draft a quarterback. So now what do? Now you're going to have to mortgage the future, draft picks, things like that in order to get up to get a guy. It might set them back. Now, talent-wise, I mean, I think they're fine talent-wise. The defense is a little suspect. Their secondary is a little suspect. But their line's great. I mean, I would like to see a little more about Thibodeau and Burns. But Dexter Lawrence is an all-pro. It might be the best defensive tackle in football. Okereke, I love. The secondary is a problem. And they need to really do something about that. And again, the offense is fine. The line is protecting Jones. It's Jones, guys. And listen, I was back and forth on Jones. I was happy when he was winning games, when he was healthy. But I think right now he's the problem. And until they figure that out, they're going to be 1-3 or, 3-6 or, kind of in that murky, like they want to be good, but they shouldn't be good kind of place. That's where they are right now. So let's get the negative out of the way. Number 3. How about Karl Anthony Towns coming to New York, baby? A Jersey kid. Not only is that great for him, how well does he fit this team? Before the trade, they were still the most talented team I've ever seen in my lifetime as a Knicks fan. After the trade, they are a legit contender now because he's everything that Hartenstein was, but can score on top of it. Now, you're going to lose a little bit of defense, but you got guys like a Robinson when he gets healthy, even an Achua that can play the 5 and can play defense, okay? Think about how much space there's going to be on that floor now with Brunson, with Towns, with Bridges, with Anunoby. You want to start Josh Hart at the 2? Be my guest. I wouldn't. I would have him come off the bench and play a guy like Landry Shamet or even Cameron Payne. I'd play in that 2-guard role for now because he can give you some spacing and you need a spot-up shooter, especially with Brunson liking to go to the rim. You could play the pick-and-pop game with Towns now, or you can play Towns down low. You can play 5 out. You can do so many things with this group, okay? They're so interchangeable. The best thing that ever happened was Randle being off the team. And again, nothing against Julius Randle personally. I think he's done a great job for the Knicks, and he brought the Knicks to a place. Let's not forget this as Knicks fans, okay? We all went through the struggles, okay? We all went through the years and years of just disastrous basketball with glimpses every once in a while, right? 2012 being the outlier. Randle comes. He gets them into a position where they're actually being relevant again. You have to commend Julius Randle for that, okay? But everything changed in the 2021 playoffs because that's when kind of the cracks started, You want him as the lead guy, which is great. He should have been in 2021. But after that, you saw it. The turnovers, the poor shooting, the bad decisions, the lack of hustle, like all these things that are just kind of rearing its ugly head with him. And now that you're building and, the evolution of Jalen Brunson and how you've developed this team now, it was only a matter of time before Randle was gone. And Dante DiVincenzo's collateral damage. I mean, listen, we would love to have him on the team, but you can find guys like him at a cheaper price than what you're paying him and get the same production. So I get why you had to add a DiVincenzo in the trade. I get it. Not happy about it, but it is what it is. They're better. And honestly, it's them, it's Boston, and it's Philly. And you know what? Those to me are the 3 top-tier Eastern Conference teams now. And that's crazy that I'm even saying this. But it's the truth. You look at them top to bottom, what they've done. But they got to take the next step now. They have to. You have to take the next step. You can't go out again in the second round. This team is a championship or bust team. Anything short of a championship this year is a failure. Okay? It is a failure. So I'm beyond excited for them. I am beyond excited for the Knicks. Really. So, a lot to say there, right? Had to get all that stuff off my chest. Nick Rosselli's going to join us in a little bit. We're going to talk basically the same stuff we just talked about. We're just going to add some Philly to it. That's really what we're going to do. And I'm going to hit on a couple things at the end of the show, some things I would like to talk about, some things that have transpired in the last few days in the sports world that we'll talk about. But for right now, let's get into our sponsors. Jump Shot Gym, a one-of-a-kind training facility located in beautiful Hillsborough, New Jersey, with 8 hoops and the Dr. Dish shooting machines. Get that consistent reps you need to build your jump shot. Visit jumpshotgym.com. Once again, jumpshotgym.com for information on shooting clinics, camps, and parties. Brazina Home Improvements. If you're looking for any type of general contracting need for your home or your business, please contact Brazina Home Improvements. 609-581-5848. 609-581-5848. Would you like to email me, contact the show, check me out at jm14productions@gmail.com. Once again, jm14productions@gmail.com. Please follow me on Instagram at jm14allaroundpod. One more time, jm14allaroundpod. And when we come back, Nick Rosselli joins the show. All right, everybody, we are back here on the All Around, and my guest at this time is really not a guest. He's my co-host. Ladies and gentlemen, long overdue, but we got a lot to talk about. Everybody, Nicholas Rosselli joins the show. Nick, how are you, my friend? Hope all is well. How's school going? Everything good?
Good, everything's good. Glad to be back here.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's been too long, man, but, life. I mean, what are you going to do,
Yep.
All right, let's get into it. First things first. Your Phillies are chilling right now, right? They're just waiting for Saturday. Now, we got a game, just so everybody knows, we're recording on Thursday. So we got a game tonight that's pretty important. It's going to tell you who the next opponent is. So where's your head at right now with your team with the Phillies?
Right now, I think the Phillies are in a good position. I didn't want to play the Padres at all, and I'm glad the Dodgers have to worry about that. I'd rather the Brewers win the series just because I think it's an easier opponent for the Phillies. But if it ends up the Mets, it's going to be a great series if it's the Mets. So, but I hope the Brewers win just because the competition's lighter. Because I do not want to face a team that barely got in the playoffs, and then they want to fight to win these games. So that's my take on it.
Yes, they do. And listen, Jack DeChurio's a stud. Like, this dude is unbelievable, man. And listen, seeing this dude up close and personal for literally like the last almost week now, this dude hits big home run after big home run after big hit, plays a good outfield. He's a star. Like, this kid is really, really good. And I was saying this in the open, and I'll say this to you. I'm scared to death of Bryce Terang. To me, he's the one guy on that team. Like, Sanchez doesn't scare me. Adames doesn't really scare me too much. Hoskins does scare me because he hates the Mets. So that's a big deal, But like these other guys, okay. But dude, Bryce Terang, Jackson Churio, Rhys Hoskins, when those guys are up at the plate, I'm scared. I'm like, oh, here we go. Nothing good is about to happen for the Mets right now. So I'm with you, but let's get through tonight. I can't think of anything else except tonight. And I'll give you my perspective. I want you to hear this. I'm scared of Quintana. I don't think he's a big game pitcher at all. I don't like how he throws. I just don't think he's the right fit for them. Even though he did pitch well against the Brewers the last time out, but you're seeing a team again. So to me, that's not okay. I think you got to go back to the same lineup you had in game one. I didn't like the fact that he started Martinez over Winker. I think Winker should have started. So I think there's an element to there with the whole element of Winker hates the Brewers hate him. So I think there's a part of that is good emotionally for the team, especially if he plays well. So I think you need that as well. And listen, the big guys need to step up. And we all know what we're talking about here. Alonso needs to get out of his own head and figure out that, forget about your contract. It's a win or go home game. Now it's time for you. If you're going to, Met fans have already turned on you. If you want the love back, go have a big game tonight and everybody will love you.
Yeah, Pete Alonso has not looked good at all. And yesterday he tripped over his own bat or whatever. That was.
Yeah. This has been the microcosm of his season. He swings at every slider in the dirt or in every slider away. He's in his own head. You can see it. He's just not himself. He hasn't been himself all year. And this contract is weighing on him to the point where he's almost a liability. And Met fans have turned on him. They're all basically saying, go away. We don't need you anymore. Go find somewhere else to go. And 2 years ago, everybody was like, sign him, sign him, sign him. He's the MVP of the team. Okay. So that's where the Met fan is right now. And listen, I got nerves, dude. I'm a nervous wreck. I am. I'm scared. I think that with everything that's transpired with me as a Met fan and all the years rooting for this team, I don't have any confidence going into this game, and I swear I hope I'm wrong, but I'm just being honest. Like I don't have any confidence going into this game.
Yeah, I could say the same thing about last year when the Diamondbacks game 7. Going in that game, there's just no confidence because they lost game 6 and then they went on. Wait, I forget what happened. I forget the Diamondbacks went up 3-2 or the,
I don't
I don't
remember,
know.
to be
That
honest.
game
Yeah,
7,
yeah,
I did not have any confidence in it. Look, the Diamondbacks won. So it's just one of those games that you got to hope for the best, honestly.
yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, whatever happens, happens. I'll be locked in. I mean, listen, till the last out, regardless of what happens. But I mean, I'm either going to be on a high tomorrow or I'm going to be miserable. It's just one or the other. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think
All right.
regardless, though, I was gonna say that
Yeah, go.
overall the Mets season it was a really good season. If they lose tonight, if they move on, they beat the expectations that they had.
Nick, nobody saw this coming. I mean, let's be real about this. Like even at 11 games under and all that nonsense that went on, nobody saw this coming. Even in the beginning
Exactly.
of the
Yeah.
year when nobody had confidence in Stearns. Everyone's like, "What are you doing, signing all these journeyman guys, all this stuff?" But I'm going to be honest. He had a vision and it worked. And you got years out of guys that you were not expecting to get you to this point. And I went on a crazy rant in the open about Major League Baseball and how stupid they are. But because of their stupidity, you got probably the greatest regular season game the Mets have ever played. So you kind of have to balance that out. So you got that too. And yeah, I mean, you look at the totality of it, they've been in the postseason 2 out of the last 3 years. That's pretty good. And you know what? It looks like they have a long-term vision of what they want to do, and they've established a few guys, especially a young group, like a Vientos, like an Alvarez, and a Luis Angel Acuna, who I think is going to be a star. Dude, he's not even scratched the surface yet. So I think you have what it takes to kind of build this thing the right way. But let's get through today. Let's
Yeah,
just
I
get through
agree.
today.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, listen, your Eagles. What's your take on your Eagles so far after the first 4 weeks of the season?
My take. I thought they looked decent against Green Bay. Overall, they won the game that was a tight game. It was a week 1 game. Every team struggles week 1. And after that, I just think their team sucks. I mean, and I don't think the players don't. Their defense, some of those players are really bad, and they should not be playing.
I agree.
But I think it's after watching these games, I think Sirianni is still running the offense. I really do. They That's not a Kellen Moore offense they're running. It's still the same design and idea that Sirianni's been running. I think that's a huge problem. And on the defense side of the ball, there's no leadership at all. I mean, Darius Slay, I don't think he's a captain. I mean, he's out there and he just doesn't have that feel to him. He's been rough. He hasn't been great. I mean, he had a good week 1 game. Um, our best player on defense, one of them is Quinyon Mitchell, our rookie. I mean, he's looked great overall, and a lot of missed tackles. It just the fundamentals of the game. They're not hitting the spot, and I think that's the problem.
Did you honestly think that we'd be sitting here 4 weeks into the season and the Washington Commanders are in first place?
They are really good though. Jaden Daniels
Yo,
is
he's the truth. This guy.
he really
Listen,
is.
Dable was right. Watch Hard Knocks. Dable was right. He identified him quick. He was like, "Yo, that's the guy I want." And they tried. He's not wrong. And the Giants' biggest problem is Daniel Jones, and it's not his fault. And I'm not saying it to like kind of like be like topical or like take a hot take or whatever. No, you watch Daniel Jones play, he's not healthy. He's not. He's still rehabbing that ACL. He's not 100%. There's a couple plays in that Thursday game against Dallas where they tried to have some designed runs with him. He didn't have that burst to get off the edge, right? Usually that's a 15, 20-yard run for him. That's not there anymore. The deep ball's a problem because he doesn't have his legs. He can't get his legs underneath the ball to get it out where it needs to go. Now, listen, Neighbors is a stud. He's a stud. Like he's everything and more than I expected out of him. And the defense has its moments. You know, I still think they need more production out of Burns. Thibodeau to me doesn't produce as much as he should. Dexter Lawrence to me is the best defensive tackle in football. I'm sorry, I just think he is. I love Okereke. Their secondary is a disaster. Deontay Banks is okay, but he's not a number one corner. He's not, and they have problems. But I think it all falls back to the point where you don't have the right guy as the quarterback, and you don't have that guy on the roster. As much as I like DeVito, and that was a fun story last year, Drew Lock is a journeyman. Like, you need another guy that has that, like, Josh Allen in him. You know what I mean? That can run, that can throw, that can really move an offense that Dable designed and get them where they need to go.
Yeah, they did. I think they get a rookie quarterback this year. I really do. It's
I
just
agree.
obvious at this point. I mean, Jones, he just he looked good against the Browns. I will say that he didn't look bad against them. I like their offense. Their offense is overall not terrible at all. I mean, they have
Oh, they
good
got
receivers.
weapons.
Their O line is solid.
Yeah, like, yo, they got weapons, dude. Neighbors is a
Exactly.
number one. Wan'Dale Robinson's been great this year. Okay,
Yeah, great. Good.
Jalen Hyde hasn't done anything yet, but I mean, you still have him as a threat. Okay, and you still have a guy like Darius Slayton, who's just a possession guy that can catch the ball. And Singletary has his moments, but he's not great. But he's solid. He's average. He's going to get you the tough yards. Okay, all right. He's not Barkley. He's not going to be Barkley. Okay, Barkley. You've seen it firsthand what Barkley is, the good and the bad. Okay, so it's that their skill position is not the problem anymore. Their problem is quarterback, and to me, until they get that right, they're not going anywhere. And you're in that murky kind of, like, you're kind of good but kind of bad. You need to kind of do something about it. You need a quarterback, but you're gonna have to give up assets to get the quarterback. To me, that's not a great place to be, and it's not a position of strength.
Yeah, I agree. And one of those players that he hasn't played really much this season. I think he played against the Jets a little bit, but I think Drake May would have been looking at him. I
You
still
think
think
so?
that he would have been a decent quarterback in his system, in Dable's system. I really do. And I don't. There's not many quarterbacks that are standing out this year in college. I mean, there's Carson Beck. There's
I
Cam
don't like
Ward and
Carson Beck.
stuff. I don't like
I like
Carson
Quinn
Beck
Ewers
either.
a lot. I do. I think Quinn Ewers is a really good quarterback. I'll
Hmm.
tell you what, dude, don't sleep on Arch Manning, bro. Like, he's
Archman is
good.
pretty good,
Yeah, yeah, he's good. So, I
but
mean,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Again, I mean, I just think they're weak at quarterback, and that's a huge problem for them. Anything else stick out for you? Just 4 weeks in the NFL, anything that kind of jumps out besides obviously the obvious with Jayden Daniels? Is there anything else you can think of off the top of your head that you were kind of surprised at or didn't expect?
I just think I haven't seen a team like really stand out over. I mean, besides Washington, there hasn't been like a clear number one team in my opinion. I mean, the Chiefs still look rough. Mahomes hasn't looked great. He hasn't.
No, he hasn't.
And I don't. The Bengals are 1-3, whatever. The Ravens
Yeah,
are 2-2. The Lions are what 3-1 or whatever.
3-1. Yeah.
There hasn't been that number one team. I
Well,
so I think
you're
I
kind of
think
had
this year's
Nick.
open.
Nick, you're missing it. You know who has been the number one team? The Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Minnesota. Yeah, they have been
Dude,
really good,
yo, Sam Darnold's playing like an MVP. Who
and
thought?
their
You know what I
defense
mean?
is
Yo,
insanely good with Flores.
yeah, they're good. I mean, they're
Yeah,
they're
I
better.
totally forgot about them.
Yeah, but like they're like nobody saw that coming. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you and I both, even when we were doing our previews, we're like, it'll be okay. They don't have a quarterback. But I heard this, I forget where I heard this from, but it's the right thing, right? You never know when a coach and a quarterback click, but you know it when you see it. And obviously Darnold and O'Connell have clicked. Or not, yeah, O'Connell, whatever his name is. Kevin O'Connell, I think his name is. Whatever.
Yeah, that's everything.
Yeah. So they've obviously figured something out. Okay. Which now might make JJ McCarthy expendable, when he comes back. But Jefferson looks like Jefferson, you know. Jordan Addison's been great. I mean, who saw that come?
Yeah,
Like, and
exactly.
yeah, yeah, and then you have Aaron Jones, who looks like he's just a guy that wants to. He's on a mission. He's upset, And again, their defense is like their defense is rock solid. So yeah, shout out to the Vikings. Like
Yeah, they're
they're a
really good.
really really good team. So yeah, I mean to me that's the biggest surprise. Obviously, I still think that Detroit's probably still the top of the
Yeah,
top.
they're probably top in NFC right now, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And then listen, the Chiefs are who they are. They lose weapons and they still win. I mean, that's just what they do. I mean, when you got a guy like Mahomes, regardless of how good or how bad he's played, he's still Mahomes. Until somebody beats him, he's still Patrick Mahomes. All right. So let's get to some real fun stuff. So I got to tell this story on the podcast here, right? So this was, I think, Friday night. Nick, was it Friday night?
It was Friday or Saturday, yeah, I think.
One of those days, right? I think it
Yeah.
was Friday or Saturday night. I forget which day it was. All right, so I'm watching a game with, my wife Melissa, and I'm genuinely upset about what I'm watching. Right, her and I are sitting there watching a game together, and we're like, just like, come on, you're in a pennant race. Like, what do you do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, show some grit. They looked like they were like tight as a drum. They didn't have any type of energy, right? So, and this is a point now where I think Reed Garrett had given up like 4 runs. So I'm like, this, right? So my phone goes off. And normally, like, I try to not look at my phone while I'm watching the Mets, but every once in a while, if friends of mine or you, I mean, really mostly you, like we'll go back and forth about something and we'll talk, right? So I get a text and I see it's from Nick, and I'm like, all right, something's up. He's either going to say something like, the Mets stink, not in a bad way. Like, he's not like trying to like troll me or anything. It's just, he's just saying like, the obvious. This wasn't the obvious. So I get a text from Nick, and I look at it, and I'm going, and I think that what was like, oh my God, the Knicks just traded for Karl Anthony Towns. So I looked at it, and I looked at my phone, and then I looked at my wife, and then I looked at my phone, and then I looked at my wife, and I said, the Knicks just traded for Karl Anthony Towns. And I'm like, for who? Then in the snow, and then when you said Randall, I'm like, Randall, like, this is great. Dude, I've said this in the open, and I'll say this to you right now. This is the best Knicks team I've ever seen in my life. This is the most talented. This is the most interchangeable. This is the deepest team that I've ever seen them have. And if they don't win a championship this year, it is a failure.
Yeah, I really like what the Knicks got now. I mean, losing DiVincenzo, I really like DiVincenzo, but I feel like with their team, I mean, they have a lot of scoring already. I wouldn't worry about that. And they have good bench guys that could come in, shoot the ball. So that'll basically replace him. Then you have Cat. I mean, he's a good scorer. If he struggles in late game, I mean, you still have all your other guys. Like, he doesn't have to be the number one option. He was what? He went to number 2 in Minnesota after Edwards, but that you don't have to always go to him now. I mean, he's going to be a guy that if he's there, he can score the ball. If not, then give it to Brunson, give it to Bridges, or whoever. I really like the trade for the
Let me tell you
Knicks.
something right now. The way this works now, right? The Knicks made a couple of under the radar moves that I don't think people really paid attention to because of all the big stuff that they did when they trade for Bridges, and they do this thing with Towns. There's 2 guys that the Knicks signed that I think are probably going to end up starting, right? One or the other. One of them is Cameron Payne, who I love. He's just a guy that he's just a gritty player. He can get you into an offense, and he hits a big three every once in a while. I like that, right? Good player. You had him last year. What do you think
Yeah,
of
he
him?
was really good. He was actually really good for us. And we
Yeah.
traded
So
Beverly, and we thought, oh wow, we're getting Payne. Payne was actually better.
not only that, there's another guy that I'm going to mention that was actually another former Sixer that I love that maybe might be another guy that could fit in that 2 guard spot and bring Josh Hart off the bench. That's Landry Shamet. I like him a lot too because again, he's not DiVincenzo. All right, so again, he was collateral damage. There's just nothing you can do. He had to go. Okay, but he can play defense and he can hit a three. In that offense, the way that offense is now designed, that's exactly what you need out of your 2 guard. And you know what? If he's going to start for you, he's obviously not going to play, the big minutes that you want him to late in the fourth quarter. I'm just talking about the beginning of the game, okay? Because obviously your best 5, let's be honest, it's Towns, it's Anunoby, it's Bridges, it's Hart, and it's Brunson. That's your 5 that you're going to have on the floor when it matters the most. Totally get that. But you cannot go the Thibodeau route of playing everybody 40 minutes a game. You can't do it. So everybody needs to be at that 30, 32, 35 kind of mark, which a guy like Shamet, whatever his name, how do you pronounce it? He's a guy that can give you 20 minutes. You know, a guy like Cameron Payne can give you 20 minutes. A guy like Precious Achiuwa, or Mitchell Robinson, or Miles McBride, who I love. Deuce McBride is one of my favorite players on the team. Again, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Give everybody a blow. Like all those types of things, but you don't lose. You don't lose the defense. You can still get in your offense and you can still create a shot because obviously you're going to have starters mixed in with the bench guys and you can kind of get guys going that way. I love, love, love what they have done.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think those bench guys should get minutes. I mean, a lot of them are capable of playing. I mean, about what, 5, 6, 7 bench players are all capable of actually getting minutes. And all the bench players have struggles. Once in a while they'll go in a slump, but those are guys that they can play. I mean, if you play them in the playoffs, they'll give you solid minutes. They'll give you scoring. They'll play defense. They're tough, and I think that's the biggest thing. The Knicks, they lost. Their bench isn't as good as it was last year, but it's still extremely solid,
I
and
agree.
that's the biggest thing.
I totally agree. And I think my biggest fear, it's not even the Celtics. I'm being honest. Like, I'm not afraid of the Celtics because I think they have enough that they match up really well against them. I really do. Pound for pound, I think they match up extremely well against the Celtics. My biggest fear in the Eastern Conference is the Sixers because they can't stop Embiid. Embiid almost beat them with one leg. All right. Imagine if that dude was healthy. Like, you can't stop him. You just can't stop him. And then you have another year of Tyrese Maxey. Now you add Paul George to that mix. You add like everything else that they've done, like the sneaky moves that they made. They got the kid from Miami. Oh, geez.
Caleb Martin.
Caleb Martin, right? Yeah. So like you got that. Like they re-signed Lowry. Like I think it's New York and Philly. I really do. I think it's the Knicks and I think it's the Sixers. They're the two best teams in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the biggest thing with the Sixers is going to be health, of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
of
it's
course.
George, Embiid. If they can just have one healthy run, it's going to be better than any other run they had in previous years, and that's all they need. Embiid shouldn't. You have to rest him some games. You can't just play him every single night. There's back to backs. You rest him. He shouldn't be worrying about any awards. You give him. He plays 55, 60 games a season. He's fine. George, we'll see about him.
Yeah.
But Maxey's the guy that you can always go to. He scores the ball. I think he takes a little leap this year, better than he was.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
It's gonna be a really fun year, I think.
Listen, Tyrese Maxey's the fastest guy in the league. Like he gets to the rim faster than I've seen anybody this side of John Wall when he was healthy. To me, he was always the guy that and Iverson. Iverson was like a blur. John Wall was kind of in that ilk too, but not as gritty as Iverson was and couldn't score the way Iverson could. But as I'm just talking about pure speed, again, Maxey gets to the rim. He hits big shots. He's not afraid of the moment. All those wonderful things you needed a guy to be their go-to guy. He's their guy. And then you add Embiid, who is a monster. Like, you can't stop him. We threw 3 guys at him last year and they couldn't do anything. But again, I don't think you worry about seeding with the Sixers. I think you worry about health. And I think that you're 100% right on that, Nick. I think that you want to get Embiid to the finish line at either close to 100% as you can. You know what I mean? Same thing with Paul George. Ride Maxey as hard as you need to ride him. Let him be the guy that's going to win you games against bad teams, all those things, right? I think that works. And again, if they can get to that point and say they're a 3 or a 4 or anything like that, I say like a 3, there you go. Here we go. Like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that I think this year they're gonna rest Embiid more because now they have Drummond, and Drummond's someone who's more capable of starting. They had Paul Reed last year. He was inconsistent. He had good games, bad games. But Drummond's someone that could play. He's a real center. He rebounds the ball, plays defense, and I think they're gonna let Embiid rest more because of that.
I agree. And listen, it's all about right now with the Sixers. They've proven everything they needed to prove. It's about getting to the playoffs healthy and then figuring it out. You have a great coach in Nurse. I like Nick Nurse a lot. You have a good group of a good group there that responds to him very well. I think he's made Maxey a better player. I think he understands how to utilize Embiid. And I think Paul George is just that 3-and-D guy that you always kind of needed that you never really had at Tobias Harris. So now you replace him with him. They're flying. So, I mean, that to me is kind of where they're at. So it's going to be a fun year, dude. We start up what? Middle of October. It's coming up, right? We're almost there.
October 20th, something.
October 22nd, I think the Knicks play the Celtics. So that'll be
fun.
I
think the Sixers play the day after against the Bucks.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. So, we'll be, when we can get on here, we'll figure all that out.
Talk about it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, man, great to catch up with you again. I'm happy that we're able to kind of make this work and find some time to get this done because again, it's not about it ain't about not wanting to do it. It's just about timing, scheduling, life. It is what it is, but we're here for you, and we're going to be here as much as we possibly can. So, Nick, you're the man. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yep, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
You had that eye of the tiger, man, the edge. And now you got to get it back. And the way to get it back is to go back to the beginning. You know what I mean? Maybe we could win it back together. Eye of the tiger, man.
That's the mood. Eye of the tiger. Why? Because this is a do or die game today. So yeah, Eye of the tiger. It's either going to be the highest of highs or the lowest of lows. But here we are sitting here on a Thursday afternoon getting ready to watch a team play a playoff game with their season on the line. One way or another, it's going to be great for one team. We'll see what happens. There's a couple things I want to kind of talk about that have happened in the sports world lately that, I want to discuss because it's kind of personal, and it's something that kind of means something to me and my family, and, I'll tie it all in. So the first thing is the passing of Dikembe Mutombo. Now, not only was he, a Hall of Fame player and a humanitarian and all those wonderful things that, this man, shown to be, and, again, tremendous human being. Dikembe Mutombo was part of the first basketball game I've ever seen live. And that was, I believe, 1995, I believe. Was it 95? It was in that early 90s, mid 90s kind of stage where he was playing with the Denver Nuggets. And a couple friends of mine, a friend of mine and his father took me to, at the time, Brendan Byrne Arena to see the New Jersey Nets against the Denver Nuggets. So first ever experience a live NBA game. I just remember two things. One, I was down courtside, as a kid, you want to get autographs and shake hands and all that stuff. I just remember Dikembe Mutombo touching my hand, and the size of that man's hand was literally 3 times the size as my hand. And I'll never forget that as long as I live, He was the first athlete to ever, shake my hand or give me a high five. So, and the second thing was, during warm-ups, I literally watched Dale Ellis. If you guys go back with me, Dale Ellis, sharpshooter, played with the Sonics, all this stuff. He didn't miss a shot, during his warm-up. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen. This guy must have took about 100 three-pointers and made all of them. Unbelievable. So, R.I.P. to Dikembe Mutombo, and his, thoughts and prayers go out to his family, and, we wish him all, hopefully, just eternal, life. The second thing, and it kind of is ironic, I guess, if you want to say it, but I guess also, fitting, is the passing of Pete Rose. Now, Pete Rose is one of these polarizing figures that you can do shows, podcasts, whatever you want to do. The whole, I remember, years ago when you were listening to talk radio as a kid or as a, young adult, they'd always say, oh, you can just say Pete Rose and you'd have calls for the next 6 hours. Well, it was kind of true. So let's kind of dive into this, okay? It's fitting that this is episode 14 for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, the passing of Pete Rose. Pete Rose is the greatest person to ever wear the number 14. So much so that when I was a kid, not knowing anything about his history or his past or anything like that, we're just talking about strictly baseball and the way that Pete Rose played the game. He was the reason why I chose to wear the number 14 as a child. And to this day, that number is resonant now with my family, obviously with me because I wore it all through, high school and everything. But now that my kids are at of age where they play sports, and listen, you got to take me at my word for this, and hopefully you do. They chose to wear that number as well. And I'm grateful for that. It's not something I pushed. It's not something I wanted them to do. It's not something that I asked them to do. It was something that they did because they wanted to. And now all 3 of my boys all wear the number 14. I I understand why Pete Rose was so polarizing, but I also understand, let's take it for what it is, baseball. Okay, we're not going to talk about his past or the things that he did. We'll get there. But from a baseball standpoint, and I think most people agree with this now that we've kind of been far removed from all the other nonsense, Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame. I mean, just look at the numbers, look it up. No one will ever accomplish in baseball what Pete Rose did. It'll never happen. Now, all the other stuff that happened with Pete Rose and the things that he has been accused of or things that he has done and admitted to are unethical, but also not part of the baseball career. Because listen, I understand he accepted a lifetime ban. That's on him. He made that decision. Okay? I also understand that he's also tried over the years and everything to try to get that ban lifted. And, for whatever reasons, they decided not to. Okay. Major League Baseball is in bed with all these gambling sites now. They are. And like I said, we talked about this in the very first episode of the podcast. We're not going to discuss gambling. But now gambling is irrelevant with this because it ties into Pete Rose. Yes, Pete Rose bet on baseball. Yes, Pete Rose was a degenerate gambler. Yes, Pete Rose was not a nice guy. But the Baseball Hall of Fame is full of guys that are not nice guys. Look it up. Go look up Ty Cobb. Okay? Look up Babe Ruth, the great Babe Ruth. Not a great person. Ty Cobb, not a great person. A lot of these guys, not great people. Not great. Now, granted, there's amazing people in the Hall of Fame. Genuine people. People that are stand-up character people. Okay? I don't want to discredit them for who they are, and that's great for them. But you can't have one without the other. You can't have a guy like a Ty Cobb or a Babe Ruth, for all their accomplishments, be in the Hall of Fame. And because now Pete Rose is now 35, 40 years removed for all this, that the world has changed, you can't put him in. You waited too long. You did. You waited too long. And it's a shame for their family and everything because the man belongs in the Hall of Fame. And he'll get there now because, unfortunately, he is now gone and no longer with us. But again, it goes back to what we talked about in the very beginning. The incompetence of Major League Baseball tied into the competence of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Come on. It's common sense sometimes. And I think, unfortunately, especially in the sports world, we lack common sense. But yeah. Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame, and not in the Hall of Fame of nice guys, but the Baseball Hall of Fame. All right, we're going to leave it at that. We're going to try and get these episodes out whenever we can. Thankfully, we were able to do that today. I don't know when the next episode is going to drop. If I have time and, I can figure that out with my schedule and everything we're going on with coaching basketball now. The basketball season is about to start. Trying to be able to watch, my kids play soccer and field hockey and basketball and all the other things that we do. Baseball, and a lot of baseball going on right now. But also, my wife and I both, working our full-time jobs, doing what we do. And we try to get these podcasts out whenever we can. And we're going to continue to do so. So please, thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for being along the ride and the journey with all of us. And let's talk about our sponsors one more time, and then we'll be signing off. Jump Shot Gym, a one-of-a-kind basketball training facility located in beautiful Hillsborough, New Jersey. 8 hoops and the Dr. Dish shooting machines. Get the consistent reps you need to build that jump shot. Visit jumpshotgym.com. One more time, jumpshotgym.com for information on shooting clinics, camps, and parties. Brazino Home Improvements. If you need anything for a general contracting need for your home or your business, contact Brazino Home Improvements at 609-581-5848. Once again, 609-581-5848. You can leave a message, and I know he will get back to you as soon as he can. Also, you want to reach out to me, reach out to the show, jm14productions at gmail.com. One more time, jm14productions at gmail.com. Hit us on Instagram, JM14 All Around Pod, JM14 All Around Pod. And listen, let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. We'll see you soon.